you know, all throughout this world, there are people who want to tear you down, bring you down a peg, bring you down to their level because they're unhappy with their life, you know. There are people who are sad, people who are happy, and those two people, they don't like to commingle. Well, the happy people want to be able to commingle with the sad people, but the sad people, you know what, they don't let them do that. You know why? Is because they get off on being sad, and that's kind of sad in and of itself, if you ask me, Mr. SparkleDart. Now, I'm not pointing fingers here. I'm not going to accuse anyone of being a sad and miserable dick all the time. Somebody who maybe just doesn't like to, you know, have fun, doesn't like to experience joys in this world, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to be sad all the time, I guess that's your own prerogative. That's not something that I'm here to tell you about, because, honestly, you know, I'm not the happiest guy there is. I'm not the happiest boy in the world, but, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who could claim to be the happiest boy in the world. If you, I bet if you go to Google and type in happiest boy in the world, it would just be a picture of some kid smiling because he got like a Nintendo 64 for Christmas or something like that, because kids like to play video games, I guess is the joke. I'm sure you've all seen videos like that on America's Funniest Home Videos. You know, Tom Bergeroff, he really sells the whole thing. Bob Saget, not so much. But, you know, that's kind of how it goes. These kids are happy because they haven't grown up and learned to deal with the real world yet, and haven't really started to make their way downtown, so to speak. So anyways, without further ado, let's get this gravy train rolling, shall we? So, you know how the show works, you know how this goes. We start a new series, we start talking about something different. That's just kind of how it's always been. You know, I'm 100 episodes in at this point. If you didn't know that, there's over 100 episodes. If you don't think that's amazing, then you need to look at this from my point of view, because I think that's absolutely outstanding, is that I've been able to do this for so long. I know we took some breaks here and there, but I've been able to do this for so long and not get so sick of it that I just deleted the whole channel. And I think that's an accomplishment. If you don't think that's an accomplishment, then you obviously you don't have my perspective. You don't have my take on the matter. Now, hold on, give me a second here. Yeah, that's good. That's fantastic. So, like, for instance, if you were to go to college or something if you were to go to college, now give me just a second here. I gotta do this one too. They're asking so much of me, and I don't know what to give. I don't know what answer they're looking for. Are they asking me a question? I don't know. I'm just saying whatever. That's, you know, that's me. That's what I like to do. I just like to talk, and that's, you know, people like to talk. You know, your mother probably liked to talk. She probably talked to you all the time when you were a little baby. She said, "Hey there, Tim. You know, Tim, do you want to go down to the park?" And you'd be like, "Goo goo gaga. I don't know. I'm a baby. I've never been to a park. I've spent half of my life in a crib so far." And when I say half of my life, I mean less than a whole year, if you can believe that. Now, here's an interesting thing, and I think that this is something that a lot of people don't think about, is that when you are born, now say somebody who is 20 years old, half of their life is 10 years, right? But there are people who are 40 years old, and half of their life is 20 years. And that 20-year-old does not have that perspective. And then, you know, you learn new things tend to get lost. Honestly, this is something I've always kind of wondered about, is you go through life, you learn new things. Well, some people learn new things every day. I don't know if I do. I like to think that I do, but I don't exactly have the perspective to say if that's true or not, because I don't like to do a lot of reflecting. I like to move into the future. I don't like to look back, because people who look back they run into brick walls, and that's kind of my philosophy in life. If you look back and reflect on the things that made you sad in the past, then you just run right into a brick wall, and then all progress is halted, baby. You know, you don't got anywhere else to go from there, and that's your own problem if you are going to cause these problems for yourself. Right, that's good enough for me. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, you cause these problems for yourself. Nobody else is at fault except for you, and you have to just kind of accept that. That's the unfortunate reality, is you have to learn how to accept things. If you can't accept things like that, then you're just going to take yourself for a ride. You're going to be upset, disappointed all the time in the way things turn out, because you're not going to be able to make a stand, make a name for yourself. You're going to just kind of falter, and that's kind of how I've always felt. Now, I had this job that I worked at in the past. I was actually working at this job when I started the channel, and I might have talked about this before. Maybe I didn't so much, but I don't know. So anyways, I started working this job, and I'm like, yeah, this is it pays well, it's fine, but then I feel so mentally exhausted, drained all the time when I come home, that I don't feel like doing anything. I can't, for the life of me, start trying to read a book or do shopping or even pay my bills, and that's a huge problem. You got to pay those bills, otherwise the debt collectors will come and they'll tackle you to the ground, and then they'll put you inside of a shopping cart and then roll you down a long San Diego Street, and then you'll go right into oncoming traffic. That is some horseshit right there. I lost because of a critical hit. Now, if you don't know anything about video games, critical hits are bad. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's kind of what you have to learn how to deal with your problems. As you have to understand them, so you have better perspective. Now, that's kind of what I've been going on about, is perspective. You got to have the perspective to know how to accept other people's faults, the things that they see every day, and you know, you got to take a step in their shoes, and that's all I'm really saying. That's what it really comes down to at the very end of the day. So, anyways, I was eating an avocado earlier, and I cut it in half like I usually do with an avocado, and I pulled it apart, and you know, as I usually do with an avocado, and then I scooped out the pit. You know, avocados have those gigantic, like, seeds in the middle of them, and the reason why they have that is because they are plants and they need to grow and flourish, and because they have those seeds, they are allowed to do that. But you have to eat those. You can't eat those seeds because they have no nutritional value for you or your bones or your children. So you can't like grind them up and then put them in your children's oatmeal and then say eat up its avocado seed, and they'll be like, that's disgusting. Why would I want to eat that? It's a big like wooden ball in the middle of a fruit, and I don't want to eat that. From an alligator pear. Did you know that avocados are called alligator pears in some parts of the world? I bet you didn't, but now you do, because we like to learn things on the show. Like that's what I was saying before, is that we like to learn things. That's what it comes down to. Now, full disclosure, I've been sick the past couple of days, so I might be coughing here and there. I just want to point that out. If it gets to be a problem, I fully apologize. I take complete responsibility for coughing. I don't take responsibility for being sick. That's ridiculous. How can you possibly take responsibility for being sick? You might say to yourself, SparkleDart, you could have got some Purell, you could have taken some Mucinex or something, or you just could have stayed in on Thursday instead of going out and drinking at the bar like you like to do. And also, what I have to say to you is, don't accuse me of things. You don't know my life. You don't know my story. Now, you might think that you do. You might think you have the perspective on that to tell me, you know, I did the same thing when I was in your position. I was really sad all the time, and I like to just forget about my woes by going down to the TJ's tap on 4th and Elm and drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon out of the tap. Not like putting your mouth on the tap and sucking on it. That would be disgusting. People probably have done that before, and when people do that is when you have to. That's where germs come from. That's how people get sick. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who gets sick by sucking on taps. Now, let me tell you that right now. I'm the kind of guy who gets sick because he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and like a baby sneezed on me, and then I'm like, that's disgusting, ma'am, you have to control your baby. And she's like, I will not control my baby, don't you tell me how to raise my children. And we got into a fight. I told her that baby's going to grow up and be a very rude man if you just let him sneeze on people. He's going to think that's okay. And she's like, you can't tell me how to raise my baby because I'm okay with him sneezing on stuff. Honestly, you know, the idea of taking your kids and infecting them with chicken pox at an early age on purpose. These parents have like chicken pox parties. And when they do that, they bring all their kids and they just get them like, and I don't want to incriminate myself by saying anything a little too risque here, but they get their kids like naked and then throw them into a pile and then pour like there's the coughs, that's what I was warning you about earlier, and they pour like boiling oil on them, and that's how they get sick. Is the boiling oil is a very good conductor for germs and sickness. Now, you might think to yourself, boiling oil, that sounds dangerous, and I will tell you this, yes, it is very dangerous, and it has a very high possibility of causing burns. It will cause burns to your bones, your elbows, your knees, your patellas, your internal and external organs, both of them at the same time. And at that point, you are probably likely to die. And I'm not, I don't want to tell you to kill your baby. That's why I'm not condoning any of this. I'm not condoning any of the stuff that I read about in People magazine. If you want to blame anyone, disclaimer, if you throw boiling oil onto your baby and he dies, you can't sue me. You have to sue Entertainment Weekly. What did I say before? U.S. Today? I don't remember. Reader's Digest, one of those books. Now, if you've ever read the National Enquirer, they had a real nice article recently about how JFK was assassinated, and you might think that that's pretty big common knowledge. You might think everybody knows that, yeah, obviously he was the most recent president to get assassinated because that's what people like to do. They like to assassinate presidents, and that's, that's fine, that's whatever. But people think there's some big conspiracy behind it, and they somehow link Ted Cruz's father to the JFK assassination. I didn't push any further because I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't really care to delve into that whole world. I didn't want to get sucked into the world of National Enquirer because I'm not the kind of guy who believes in crazy things like that. You know, I think what actually might have happened when JFK died is the motorcade just hit a really big rock or something, and then the rock like flew up and hit JFK in the back of the head, and then his brain came out. I think that's my theory on the matter. I don't know if there's any credence to that. I don't know if there's anything that can back up my claim, but that's kind of what I've chosen to believe. And if you don't believe that, then I'm more than okay with your choices, because obviously that's a crazy. Everything about that whole situation was crazy. They dusted for prints. They found a rifle in the Texas warehouse suppository. Oh, please. Oh, thank God. Thank God. Thank the various squashes. And they made their conclusions based off of that. Now, they were going to charge Lee Harvey Oswald with the murder. Obviously, whether he did it or not is hard to determine because he was murdered by Jack Ruby on the way to the courthouse or whatever. The courthouse proceedings where they were going to indict him for killing a U.S. president, which is, as far as I understand, is against the law. Now, I don't know much about law, but I'm pretty sure murder is illegal. I don't know how illegal it is exactly to murder a U.S. president, but I don't recommend doing that. Now, if you want to, if you really gotta murder someone, just play video games. Don't wear a long trench coat, buy an assault rifle, and go to the nearest high school. Don't do that. I don't recommend that because that's very dangerous. You will probably wind up getting yourself killed. Now, fella, what do you think violent video games are for? It's to take out your aggressions, your microaggressions, your macroaggressions, and just anything that's ever bothered you in the past. It's just anything that's ever caused you problem, caused you stress, or whatever. It's not like it's up to you to take out your problems with yourself. I'm struggling for my words here because I'm just all over the board on this. It's not up to you to take out your aggressions on other people. You have to be more introspective, and honestly, if you feel like you have to take out your aggression, you should probably seek some sort of psychiatric help because people shouldn't be aggressive. Now, you might think to yourself, I have every reason to be aggressive. I've got like 4 student loan bills that I have to pay every week because I took out 3 loans from different companies that apparently don't do business with each other, and they can't consolidate their total cumulative loan, and I have to pay these loans, and they're each over $200 a month, and on top of that, I can't get them lowered. I can't get an income-based repayment plan because I don't get pay stubs. I only get electronic checks in the mail. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. And on top of all of this, it's just not working out for me. I'm struggling to make ends meet. I can't even afford to eat more than just like Hot Pockets and French fries and Tostino's pizzas, which I will make. Tostino's pizza rolls, I will make those. But you have to be quiet because mom and dad is sleeping, so don't yell. And then the kid yells, and that's the joke. You've seen the commercial. We've all seen that commercial. It's a good commercial, baby. Let me tell you what. I think I should press onward here. So yeah, that's I'm looking at you, Jerry. You know the one. I absolutely forbid you from going through here. This is private property. I've never been one to point out other people's flaws, but that's very rude of him to say that. It looked like that was just a straight-on path to the next town, and for him to say that I can't walk on the road is a little bit much, honestly. It's not like the sidewalks or nothing. I drive downtown a lot, and there are people who will walk in the middle of the road, especially since I get off work super late at night. I get off work at like 12:30 at night in the midnight time area, and because of that, there are people who just kind of start walking around in the middle of the road, whether it be that they're drunk or maybe they just think there's not enough traffic out for them to really be that concerned about being cautious of cars coming towards them, away from them, maybe people in Cadillacs rolling down the windows and throwing like sports drinks at them when they're driving on by. They don't feel like they have to worry about that sort of thing. But then what winds up happening is good, honest people like me have to stand behind them, drive behind them as they're in the middle of the road, and they don't even notice you because they're wearing headphones listening to Dr. Dre or whatever it is that kids like to listen to these days. And they're just so inconsiderate. And I don't much care for inconsideration. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is people who don't take your thoughts and feelings into consideration. Now, I'm not accusing anyone in particular of being like that. I would never be so rude. I'm not a rude boy. I don't have a rude agenda. But I do have a lot of strong opinions about the matter, and honestly, this goes back to what I was saying probably one time in the past. I honestly don't know if I've said this before, but I've said this in the past, and maybe, is that I don't like bikers who ride their bikes in the middle of the road because they like to block traffic. And I saw a biker one time, he rode right on through a red light, and he got hit by a car, and he flew off the car. He flew like 10 feet through the air. And if I've talked about this before, you can just go ahead and not listen for just a second, like 1 second, not even 2 seconds. He flew through the air, and I couldn't help but not feel bad about him, because bikers have to obey laws, traffic laws, if they're in the middle of the street where traffic is. And if they don't, and they suffer for it, I don't think the motorist should be at fault, because honestly, if one motorist hits another motorist, then the motorist who hit the car, obviously he's at fault. But if we're both following proper procedure, then it's more of an open-ended question. Maybe somebody's at fault, maybe not, but somebody has to be blamed, because we live in a world where you can never take responsibility. Maybe something happened and nobody had any direct control over it, and because of that, you feel like you have to blame somebody. But because nobody is stepping forward and taking responsibility, you just kind of assume that everybody is responsible for it. Like everybody, like your mom, your dad, your cousin, your teachers. Anybody that you know at work who likes to go dancing on Friday nights and likes to get into fights and goes down to the bar and likes to go real far, and anything else that you can think of that rhymes. That's how these people think. They go through their docket, their list of people that they know, and then they blame them based off of which name rhymes next, and that's kind of how it is. I think that's a good sort of word association game. If you know anything about doing word association, it's very interesting. Now, if you were to give me a word like plate, the word I would associate that would be dinner, right? So you go on like that, and maybe I say napkin, and then you're like, teddy bears, because of that commercial where the bears like to wipe their butts. But then I'd say you're wrong, because that's actually toilet paper, not paper towels. You are stupid. And then I would hit the button, the button that goes, and then they would fall into a pit of goo, like on Nickelodeon Guts. If you like that TV show, it's a good TV show. I always wondered what that goo tasted like. Was it called goo, or was it called something else like gack? Like Nickelodeon gack. It's just such a gross name, gack. Don't say gack around me, please. I don't like to listen to words that just sound gross. It's like Slimer from the Ghostbusters. It's like, I can't root for a character named Slimer. Especially because I know they just put this character in the movie because they wanted to sell merchandise, and they thought that, well, we have to have a ghost, but it has to be like a kind of a gross ghost, a grost. But and then they did that, and then I'm like, well, this character doesn't add anything to the plot. I just want to watch the Stay Puft Man pull a Godzilla or pull a Al-Qaeda or something like that, because that is a lot more interesting to me than watching a couple of men try to suck a ghost. Obviously, you would think that they would show more of that, but they didn't really feel that that was all that necessary. And I can't blame them. I can't blame them for trying to merchandise this movie that they work so hard on. Like when you watch Frozen, and yes, I've seen Frozen, so please don't bring it up. They added that character Olaf, and I'm like, this character's not... He looks like a toilet. First of all, he looks like a toilet. And second of all, he's not that marketable, because they have, at the grocery store where I live, they have these Olaf pillows that just look like toilets. They look like little toilet heads. And I would never let a child have that. That is way too terrifying for a child. I would not... If I was a little baby, I would not like that toy. I would throw it out the window. I would... On a long car ride to Grandma and Grandpa's house, 2.5 hours, I would spend like 10 minutes considering whether or not I should roll down the window and throw it out there. That's called intrusive thought. And intrusive thoughts is something that I actually have a lot of interest in, because that's something I've actually experienced before in the past, is these thoughts that you don't want to act on because you know they're wrong, but you can't help but consider doing it in the first place. Like if you're holding your phone and maybe making it look like it's jumping along the contours of the land, like it's jumping around, like it's a fun game. You're 9 years old. You think that's a really fun, interesting way to pass time on the way to Grandma and Grandpa's house, instead of just the prospect of going to see your Grandma and Grandpa should be enough for you. You start trying to make up games or something like that, and then you entertain the idea of throwing your phone out the window, knowing only that it would serve to hurt you in the end. that is called intrusive thought, and that is something that a lot of people have experienced apparently in the past. I guess it's some sort of like demonic thing, like demons enter your body and like try to make you make bad decisions, and you don't want to because you're a good boy and you like to eat your carrots and peas, but not in that order necessarily. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode now. Thank you for sticking around. I made this one long because this is going to be a long playthrough, and that's just how it's going to have to be. So if you don't want to watch it, go ahead and don't do that. But I hope you can enjoy this show that I do on a level other than what I'm doing in the game, and more so just on a level of what I'm saying. Maybe that's more interesting to you than the actual gameplay itself. That's what I've always been kind of hoping for. And if you don't think so, then you're entitled to that opinion. I don't have anything else to say. So thank you. Goodbye. Mwah.